When many people think of science fiction, they think of things like space travel and artificial intelligence, or out there technologies like nanotech and flying cars. You know, science stuff. And while they would be right in that sci-fi does contain all these sciencey things, yes, I just said sciencey, there is much more to the science part of sci-fi than many might at first believe. One of the most fascinating parts of sci-fi for me is when it deals with culture, societies and people. Don't get me wrong, I love the sciencey stuff as much as the next giant nerd, but I also appreciate the philosophy and futurism that many writers weave into their stories, alongside the epic space battles and alien invasions or whatever. These come under a lesser known science collectively called the social sciences, which are anthropology, sociology, psychology, political science and economics. For this video I'm going to look specifically at sociology in sci-fi. Sociology is the study of social relationships and institutions, and its subject matter is diverse, ranging from crime to religion, from the family to the state, from the divisions of race and social class to the shared beliefs of a common culture, and can look at social stability to radical change in whole societies. Unifying these diverse subjects of study is sociology's purpose of setting out to understand how human action and consciousness both shapes and are shaped by surrounding cultural and social structures. At a personal level, sociology investigates the social causes and consequences of such things as romantic love, the family, deviant behaviour and religious faith. At the societal level, sociology examines and explains matters like crime and law, poverty and wealth, prejudice and discrimination. At the global level, society studies such phenomena as population growth and migration, war and peace, and economic development. Sociology offers a way of seeing and understanding the social world in which we live, and through its principles offers the sci-fi writer the tools to create strange new worlds with new civilizations and to make predictions, good or bad, of possible futures for humanity. There's even a genre of science fiction devoted to writing that focuses on these social elements of culture within a story, and that's called social science fiction. Social science fiction is a subgenre of sci-fi or speculative fiction that features social commentary as opposed to, say, hypothetical technology in the foreground. These might be classed as soft science fiction because they're concerned less with the technological developments in themselves and more with speculation and futurism regarding society, either human or alien, and how these technologies might impact that society. Speculating about human behaviour and interactions relate in part to anthropology, the scientific study of humanity concerned with human behaviour, human biology, cultures, society and linguistics, in both the past and the present. But often sci-fi will look to the future. Novelist and sociologist Brian Stableford, who wrote The Sociology of Science Fiction in 1987, says sci-fi can act as a restorative, serving as a form of escapism, which Stableford says is unlikely to have a lasting impact on readers, b, as a maintenance function, which is supporting and legitimizing the reader's existing attitudes, and c, as a directive. Directive refers to directive communications, in that it conveys information with the goal of affecting attitudes, or, as Stableford puts it, they command, exhort, instruct, persuade, and urge in the direction of learning and new understanding. Directive communication challenges the audience, questioning their worldviews. He says, science fiction is essentially a kind of fiction in which people learn more about how to live in the real world, visiting imaginary worlds unlike our own in order to investigate, by way of pleasurable thought experiments, how things might be done differently. Exploration of fictional societies is clearly an important part of science fiction. It allows the genre to delve into philosophy and futurism in ways that no other genre can, and ask the only real question that is important in sci-fi, one that I bang on a lot about on this channel, and that's, what if? Not only that, but it also allows the author to include commentary and allegory too, on the state of society as they see it. They can highlight what they see as injustices or things that they see as being wrong with the world today, or they can make predictions based on what they see as humanity's current trajectory, heralding a warning for what may come if things don't change. We've seen this a lot in the past decade with the emergence of climate sci-fi, also known as Cli-Fi. We've also seen this in the social science fiction better known as dystopian fiction. As Stableford puts it, writers can express ideas and emotions that are important to them, but have no means of expression. Some of these ideas may be fantastic, and some of the emotions may be given clearer voice in fantastic fiction. In this way, the social elements of sci-fi can be predictive, precautionary, they can criticise, and they can also offer solutions. The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, published in 1895, is one such work that offers a predictive view of the future. Wells tells the story of a man who builds a machine that can take him so far into the future that humanity has split into two races, the Eloi, who live above ground and have become weak and lazy, or the Morlocks, who live below ground and have become savage and monstrous. We can also see this in books like Arthur C. Clarke's The City and the Stars, published in 1956, which depicts a humanity over 2 billion years into the future, and in the more modern works such as Diaspora by Greg Egan, published in 2000, which predicts a humanity following centuries of scientific, cultural, and physical development. In Diaspora, humanity has divided into 3 groups: Fleshers, true Homo sapiens, Gleisner robots, embodying human minds within machines that interact with the physical world, and Policies, supercomputers teeming with intelligent software, containing the direct copies of billions of human personalities now existing only in virtual reality of the polis. Then we have the cyberpunk classic Neuromancer, written by William Gibson in 1984, which predicts how an increase in dependence on technology and a rise in corporate power might affect civilization. Many credit Gibson with predicting the internet and how technology flows from the most affluent down to the lowest levels of society's strata. Gibson himself has made it known that he believes all cultural change is fundamentally technologically driven. So you can see how sci-fi can be used to make predictive leaps into society's future. It can also be precautionary, and this is something we tend to see a lot of in dystopian fiction. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, published in 1932, is set largely in the futuristic world state, where citizens are environmentally engineered into an intelligence-based social hierarchy. Huxley comments on the societal impacts that might occur with huge scientific advancements in reproductive technology, sleep learning, psychological manipulation, and conditioning. Then in George Orwell's 1984, published in 1949, we're warned against the perils of totalitarian states to individualism, commenting on the regimes of Stalinist Russia and Nazi Germany. The novel examines the role of truth and facts within politics and the ways in which they can be manipulated. More recently, we have books such as The Handmaid's Tale and The Hunger Games, which also take a similar stance in setting out precautions against extreme political and religious regimes. As I mentioned earlier, we've seen an increase in Cli-Fi over the past few decades, as science fiction authors attempt to weave warnings of climate change into their stories, some being very on the nose while others succeed more subtly. Perihelion Summer by Greg Egan, published in 2019, depicts events following a black hole 1/10 the mass of the Sun entering the solar system. As a result, people struggle to adapt to a suddenly wildly different environment on Earth. The messages in the book are overt, and while I generally enjoy Greg Egan's writings, this book left much to be desired compared to his other works, as it sacrifices story for the ultimate and obvious climate change message. Then we have Kim Stanley Robinson's Ministry for the Future, published in 2020. Set in the near future, the story follows a subsidiary body established under the Paris Agreement, whose mission is to advocate for the world's future generations of citizens as if their rights are as valid as the present generations. The plot follows the character Murphy as she seeks to convince central banks of the threats to currency and market stability posed by the effects of climate change. At the same time, in Antarctica, countries cooperate in a geoengineering project to drill to the bottom of glaciers and pump meltwater to slow basal sliding. The book's blurb pitches it as one of the most powerful and original books on climate change ever written. As well as acting as precautionary tales, sociology and sci-fi can also be used to criticise and comment on the world in which the author lives. And we see this in Ursula Le Guin's The Dispossessed, an Ambiguous Utopia, which was published in 1974. The Dispossessed takes place on the planet Uras and its moon Heiress. The ruling power on Uras gave a faction of rebellious revolutionaries the right to live on the Heiress moon 200 years before the events in the book, where they formed an anarchist society with no central government. This is juxtaposed with the main nation on Uras, which operates under a capitalist society on steroids. While many interpret Le Guin's story in different ways, it seems almost certain, to me at least, that her intention was to hold a mirror up to society by setting out extremes. At the time of publishing, the Cold War between America and the USSR was well underway, and the world as a whole was debating the merits and problems of both communism and capitalism. In Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift, published in 1726, Swift used the story to take a satirical stance on the state of European government at the time, and of petty differences between religions. He also asked the question, are people inherently corrupt, or do they become corrupted? Then we have Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land, published in 1961, which tells the story of Valentine Michael Smith, a human who comes to Earth in early adulthood after being born on the planet Mars and raised by Martians. The story explores his interactions with and eventual transformation of the Terran culture. Originally titled The Heretic, the book was written in part as a deliberate attempt to challenge social customs. In the course of the story, Heinlein uses Smith's open-mindedness to re-evaluate institutions such as religion, money, monogamy, and the fear of death. You kind of have to read it to grok it. As well as criticising, social sci-fi can often present what the author sees as solutions to society's problems. We see this in Walden 2 by B.F. Skinner, published in 1948. The novel describes an experimental community called Walden 2, located in a rural area which has nearly 1,000 members. The community encourages its members to view every habit and custom with an eye to possible improvement, and to have a constantly experimental attitude toward everything, so the society of the community can be changed if experimental evidence favours proposed changes. The community engages in behavioural engineering of young children that aims towards cooperative relationships and the removal of competitive sentiments. The community has also dissolved the traditional family unit through placing the responsibility of child rearing in the hands of the larger community and not just the child's parents or immediate family. Similarly, we can look at the work of author Ayn Rand, specifically her novel Atlas Shrugged, published in 1957. Atlas Shrugged includes elements of science fiction, mystery and romance, and it contains Rand's most extensive statement on objectivism in any of her works of fiction. Objectivism is a philosophy system developed by Rand herself, which is described as the concept of man as a heroic being, with his own happiness as the moral purpose of his life, with the productive achievement as his noblest activity, and reason as his only absolute. The book depicts a dystopian United States in which private businesses suffer under increasingly burdensome laws and regulations imposed by government. The theme of Atlas Shrugged, as Rand describes it, is the role of man's mind in existence. The book explores a number of philosophical themes from which Rand would subsequently develop objectivism. In doing so, it expresses the advocacy of reason, individualism, and capitalism, and depicts what Rand saw to be the failures of government coercion. The ways in which the society in science fiction can be used for commentary and allegory are almost inexhaustive, but I want to throw a few non-book examples that really hold a mirror to society. Some might call it a Black Mirror. Black Mirror is a British science fiction anthology series created by Charlie Brooker. The programme was reportedly inspired by The Twilight Zone and largely explores technology and its effects on humans and society at large. It began on the British television network Channel 4 before moving to the American streaming platform Netflix and has run for 5 seasons. The episode Nosedive is particularly relevant today because it depicts an increasingly stratified society segmented by credit scores and app rankings that pretty much hold a mirror up to social media. How many of us have described the events over the past 2 years, or even the past 2 weeks, and declared it's like living in an episode of Black Mirror? I know I have. Black Mirror really serves as an anthology of precautionary tales and has managed to do that very rare thing of ingraining itself into pop culture. And one of the reasons for this is because it primarily looks at the sociology in its sci-fi. Another lesser known work is the 2019 Spanish horror sci-fi The Platform. The film is set in a large tower called a vertical self-management centre. The residents of this tower, who are switched every 30 days between its many floors, are fed via a platform which, initially filled with food at the top, gradually descends through the tower's levels, stopping for a fixed amount of time at each. The system inevitably leads to conflict, as the residents at the top inevitably get to eat as much as they can, with each level getting only the leftovers from the previous ones. If you haven't seen this one, I urge you to seek it out. It really is unforgettable. The sociological elements of science fiction are so important that, in my view, you simply can't create good world building without them. And a work of sci-fi without good world building is like eating frozen yogurt over full-fat ice cream. It might look the same, you might even enjoy it at the time, but ultimately, it'll be forgettable. As a writer of sci-fi myself, which is something I don't really talk about too much on this channel, I know that to create any type of half-believable world, people, culture or race, takes immense thought and effort. You have to consider things like the social structure, the family, economics and the reasons for having that particular system, government, crime and punishment, disease and technology, ideology and religion, language and semantics, education and equality, environmental factors and their impacts on the people, military and industrial advances, and so much more. If we look at the classic dystopia 1984, the family has been eradicated. In The Dispossessed, there's a divide in belief about economic principles. In Dune, the environmental factors of one planet have economical and societal implications that span the galaxy. In Ian M. Banks' The Culture series, we see examples of different governments, from direct democracies to authoritarian states. In Richard Morgan's Altered Carbon, we see the direct impact of technology and industrial advances on a people that have, for all intents and purposes, eradicated death. In my most recent book, Delphine Descends, I look at the implications of a society that has stratified its citizens in order to use the lowest rank as a form of slave labour that props up its economy. What they all have in common is that they use the teachings of sociology to underpin their stories, to build worlds, to fully realise characters, to emphasise points, to make statements, and to ask that all-important question: what if? Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe in all the usual ways, and also leave a comment too. I always love to read your thoughts on these discussions. Until next time, guys, happy reading.